Turn on the audio. And go transition. All right. Good evening, everyone. Let me work on getting this set up. It's September 8th. Tonight is the first virtual town hall meeting regarding the bond issue. I'm also working at streaming this to our village YouTube channel and to my mayor's Facebook page at the same time, so we can try to reach as many people as possible with this information. So give me just a second here. Want to make sure this is all streaming, and then I'll get going here. Doesn't look like I have any participants on the meeting yet, so if they come on here in a few minutes, we'll join them to the meeting and answer any questions we have. So again, it's September 8th. This is the first meeting. I've got 2, 4, 6, maybe 7 more scheduled, I believe, between now and the election day to talk about the bond issue here in the village to replace the water infrastructure. Again, we all know the story that our infrastructure has started to deteriorate right below the streets. Some areas of the village are worse affected than others at this time, but we know that eventually the entire village will have water infrastructure problems. It's just the age of the infrastructure and years of not replacing it. So now we have to play catch up so that we can get ahead of it. We've been working for the past couple years to try to get different grants. Quite frankly, there's not a lot out there for us. We're too small for some grants, and others we simply don't qualify for on our project. It's become apparent that at this point, in order to do this, we're going to have to do this ourselves. And so we needed to come up with a way to fund a complete overhaul of our water infrastructure. Right now we need about $3 million just to fix the worst affected area, but that only fixes a portion of the village. And if we're going to start talking about issuing bonds or loans to cover that, then we need to look at a whole-scale approach, because like I said, we know it is the entire village that needs water infrastructure. So in August, we passed the ordinance to put a $17 million bond levy on November 3rd, and this will be for the replacement of water infrastructure throughout the entire village. Our plan will be to start with the worst affected areas, and then working with our engineering firms to figure out the best way to systematically go through replacing the water lines throughout the entire village. The benefit we get with bonds is that money is available to us almost immediately. November 4th, this levy passes. November 4th, we can start the planning process for not just the replacement of the worst affected area from ballot to the western edge of the village, but we can also begin the planning for the rest of the village, because we know those funds are available and secured for us to use. It's not like a debt surcharge where we have to wait and build up a cash reserve. With the bond levy, we have those funds, and we can begin November 4th on planning the projects to replace the water infrastructure. One of the things we want to make sure we do when we replace the water infrastructure is that we put in water mains that are large enough to account for future growth. Some places right now only have 2-inch lines. We want to replace at a minimum of 6-inch, though in discussions we've been having since then, we'll look at probably a minimum of 8-inch lines in some areas and going up to even 12-inch lines in some areas, so that as more homes and businesses come into the area, we have the water line capacity to service them. The other thing we've been looking at doing is, lines these days are made of different materials that are less prone to the collection of the mineral deposits, which is one of the big problems we have with the lines we have now. The mineral deposits have just eaten up the size of the line. So what used to be a 2-inch line might now have something the size of a dime or a quarter for our water to go through. That's also what causes a lot of our discoloration, is those mineral deposits break away a little bit and get into the lines. So that's the project. We've talked about it for several months now on the big scale project here. I had a post a while back about what we want to do, but we've been talking about the water issues for 4 or 5 years now, and working at it piecemeal, and that simply is not getting it done, and not getting it done quick enough. So again, that's why we've got this $17 million bond levy on the ballot this November. It is a bond levy, so it'll be assessed towards our property taxes. So I know the question is what does that cost me? The bond levy that's out right now, it's going to be about $486.50 per $100,000 of property. So if your property was $100,000, it would be an additional $486 a year on your property tax. Since we pay our property tax in halves, you're looking at $243 every 6 months. And if I can, I have a spreadsheet that will work on making available that I can show everyone and get posted. You could do the math yourself as well, but here we see just a breakdown, what it would be, property value, what your tax value becomes, the millage, and then how much that is per month. For instance, my home is just under $150,000, so I would be looking at $729.75 a year in additional property tax, or about $60 a month, if you break it down per month. If you go up to a $200,000 home, we're talking $973 or $81 a month for that. Now, again, this is our property tax, and this is over 30 years. So it's a 30-year property tax collection. The lines that we want to use have somewhere between a 50 to, some studies even have some of the lines having a life expectancy of up to 100 years. Hopefully the future administrations will begin replacement a lot sooner than we have now, and a lot sooner than that 100-year mark. But even if future administrations start replacing the lines at 50 years, this tax levy stops in 30, so there's an additional 20 years in there for future administrations to work on how to replace those lines in a more maintenance and structured way, and preventative maintenance way, which is how it should be done, instead of playing catch up, which is what we are doing now. So that is the basics of it. These town halls are here for to answer questions about some of the specifics. I don't have specifics on projects and how it would work, because until we have those funds, it doesn't make sense for us to say, well, we would start on the west edge of the village and just go east, or we'd start in Basel westward and then maybe start at the east side and come back west, or how it gets planned out. We really can't say until we know that we have the funds secured to work on that project. So I am not seeing anybody on this meeting. Again, for anybody that might be watching this meeting, either on the YouTube channel or Facebook channel, if you're a village resident, in your last utility bill insert, there was a letter from me that gave all of this meeting information, as well as the future dates. And I should have done a screen to put up here for everybody. I apologize for that. I didn't think of doing that, but it is in the insert. Our next date is September 25th at noon. There's also one October 5th at 5:30 p.m., October 16th at 5 p.m., October 22nd at 7 p.m., October 27th at 6 p.m., and November 2nd, the night before the election, at 6 p.m. Again, I want to make sure everybody gets their questions answered. This information, again, was put in your utility bill insert. We want to make sure that residents get the chance to ask these questions. I know there's a lot of interest from persons that live outside of the village in the area, but as this affects only residents and property owners here, I want to make sure that they're the ones able to call into these virtual town hall meetings, because the number of participants is limited to 100 each. So I didn't want to get bombarded with people outside of the village participating. If you're watching this and you want to participate and you live in the village, or you're a landlord, or you own a property in the village, and didn't get the insert because your renter didn't send it on to you, call into the village office. We'll get you the information so that you can participate. You could email me at mayor@baltimoreohio.org, and I'll send you the information to join the meeting, because I do want to make sure we get everybody's questions answered and issues addressed with this. It is a large-scale investment in our community, but is one that not only will help us fix the problems that we have and give clean water to those people, especially those that have been dealing with this issue for the past 4 years, but will also potentially help us spur some investment and development. Our water issues are unfortunately well known, and that can hinder us in trying to attract a business here, or a developer for a small subdivision into the area that may want water from us. Until we get that fixed, we're kind of stymied in that. So being able to say, yes, we're investing $17 million in our water infrastructure, and business XYZ, you should bring your whatever business to Baltimore, because we're investing in ourselves, and you should invest in us too, and let's bring your business here and work on this. That gives us some additional growth potential, which of course also gives us the ability with additional property taxes as businesses would come in to potentially be able to take care of this bond debt in a quicker fashion. Even though we'll be paying it for 30 years, that gives us some leeway in there. So I have been talking for I don't know how long on this at this point, but I haven't seen anybody join, which is okay. I kind of expected it for this first one. The notice just went out last week. It's still just under 2 months away from the election. I anticipate the town halls in October will be much better attended. Maybe try to get some more notices out there to everybody to remind them, because again, we do want to make sure your questions get answered. So the next one, like I said, is September 25th. That one is at noon. The meeting information is available in your utility bill insert, or like I said, call the village office and we'll get that to you so that we can get your questions answered. So until then, and until we get a chance to talk again, I hope everyone has a good evening, and I will see you soon. Have a good evening, everyone.